Hello and welcome to the Pleasurepreneur podcast. This podcast will help you create what you desire in your business with pleasure. Whether that be calling in your ideal clients, making more money, or creating a balanced business life blend. I'm your host, Regan, pleasure and business coach, published author of A Mother's Pleasure, wife and mama to 3 little wildlings. However you're choosing to listen to this podcast, ask yourself, how can I make this more pleasurable? And do just that. I acknowledge the custodians of the land on which this podcast is recorded and produced, the Wadi Wadi people of Dharawal land. Now, let's proceed with pleasure. Okay, before we dive into this episode, I just want to share a very quick note that you will hear me inviting you into my free launching week in Telegram called Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur. Now, this was due to start on July 20th. It is now past July 20th, and we're actually starting it next week, come July 27. My gorgeous, extravagant, adventurous, hilarious 93-year-old Nan passed away recently. So we had her passing and her funeral and all the things that come with that. So I've given myself an extra week, a bit of a buffer week to move into Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur with you in Telegram for next week. So I didn't want to record the whole episode again. Just know that it's not going to be starting on July 20. It'll be July 27. Come and join us. Hello. Welcome back to the podcast, or welcome to the podcast if you're new here. It's so nice to have you here. Thank you to those of you who sent me gorgeous DMs letting me know that you're loving the podcast. I love your feedback. Thank you to those of you who have left me 5-star reviews. Woohoo! I have a little celebration every time something like that happens. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Okay, so I was getting ready for date night with my hubby last night, doing my makeup. And then I realized that, obviously to me, this was one of the things that I was doing as part of my launch for the next intake of the Pleasurepreneur Mastermind. And, it actually hit me that there is a whole list of things I do before and during every single launch that I've just never really actually said out loud, like all of it from start to finish. And I think it's because it just feels so basic bitch to me, which is, what it's like for us as service providers, as expertise-based business owners. The stuff that we do feels basic to us, but that's because it's our genius zone. That's because we're in it. That's because it is, what we excel at. It's our expertise, right? So I'm making sure that I'm sharing what feels basic to me, but it is probably very left of field, maybe even erring on unhinged for some people. But they are some of the things that I do that help me to have incredible launch results and to help me have launches that I actually really enjoy and that bring me so much pleasure. So today's episode are the 10 things, or the 10 rituals. I'm purely just adding in rituals there because things sounds quite flimsy. So let's call it the 10 rituals that I build into every launch that make it feel good and perform. As I said, some might sound borderline unhinged. Some might also be quite obvious. So let's dive in. Also, if you have listened to this podcast before, you know my whole thing, pleasure is a performance strategy. Not pleasure instead of profit or pleasure as indulgence, pleasure as the strategy. But I do get how it can often sound a little bit airy-fairy, a bit floaty, a bit like, manifest your launch results by lighting a candle. So I will be ensuring that I am backing this up with what it actually looks like day to day. I'm going to get really specific and practical and provide you with an actual kind of pre-launch checklist with these 10 things on it, right? Pick and choose what you like, choose one, choose all of them. But a lot of these pieces most people skip because it doesn't look like work. It looks like rest and boundaries and fun and honestly a bit of audacity. Okay, now if you are the kind of coach or creative who has already got clients and already got testimonials and people telling you that your work changes their lives, but your launches still feel like a bit of a gamble, then this episode is for you. Grab a coffee, my love, get in the sunshine. Let's proceed with pleasure. Ritual number 1, define success on my own terms. Number 1, before anything else, before I write a single post
or invite anyone to join me. I define what success actually looks like for me. And I'm talking about both sides of it, the extrinsic, which is like your sales and sign-ups, and the intrinsic, which is like the personal growth that happens. The extrinsic I think is quite obvious, right? It's the number, the sales target, but the intrinsic is the one that everyone can skip over or not even think to consider. It is, how do I want to feel doing this launch? What do I want to learn about myself? What conviction do I want to walk away with, regardless of the number, regardless of the outcome? Now, also, if you want to skip this one completely because you don't like setting goals for yourself, I want you to pause for a moment and consider what that's actually meaning for you. If you are not giving yourself permission to desire what you desire, to want what you want, it's going to be really hard to create what you want if you won't even give yourself the permission for it. So I would invite you to let yourself ponder, daydream, dial into, tap into what you actually want to create for this next launch of yours if you're launching. Right? I want you to consider, like, what are the goals that I want to create? How can I actually feel a sense of like connection to them? Start to let yourself what you want. Start to let yourself have what you want so you can create what you want, right? So this Pleasurepreneur Mastermind launch for me, my extrinsic or external goals are, I want 50 women who have joined the waitlist before the waitlist doors close come August 7th. I want all 5 spots within the mastermind to be filled. 2 of those spots, I want them to be filled before the doors even open to the waitlist. And I want to call in a $27,000 plus launch. Now, the plus is because there's going to be some upgrades available for the women jumping in. So $27K, 5 incredible new clients in my world, 2 already in before doors close, and 50 women on the wait list, enjoying, having fun, creating value from the freebies, the bonuses, all the experiences they're getting on the wait list. One of which is the launch content goldmine, where you get 14 pieces of my top performing content. You also then get a breakdown of why each of those pieces worked, the buyer's psychology, the know, like, and trust that it built. And you'll also get an AI prompt so you can recreate it for yourself, right? So you're going to get my original pieces of content, the emails, the reels, the carousels that you can look at. You can then get the breakdown of why it worked, and then you can have your own prompt to recreate it for yourself, for your own business in your own voice. So you can see what that structure, what that format looks like for your pieces of content. The other thing is you get when you're on the waitlist is we're going to be having 5 days in Telegram. You're going to be getting bite-sized trainings and coaching from me on how to launch like a pleasurepreneur, right? So you've got the content stuff sorted with the goldmine, and then you're really getting into the mindset, the embodiment of actually seeing out your launch where you're fully all in, connected, holding that energy, holding that conviction throughout, so that you can create the best launch you've ever created. All right, that was a bit of a tangent. Let's get back into this of what my goals are. So the intrinsic ones usually look something like this. Now borrow them, use these if this sounds really good for you. But usually intrinsic goals for me look a little bit like, I've got 4 here. Number 1, I hold the energy and conviction for the entire launch, no matter what the data says along the way. Number 2, I become more confident showing up and selling my work. Number 3, I build and deepen relationships with my audience and my community. And number 4, I feel proud of the commitment and the consistency I have brought throughout the launch, not just at the start. Now, none of those 4 things show up on a sales report, do they? Like, I'm not going to find those things on my PayPal reports. But if I walk away from a launch, having done all of those 4, that is an absolute win for me, regardless of the number. That is the list that most people never even think to write. So I'm putting it here for you so you can write it and have a successful launch. Okay, ritual 2, and this is the one that gets people the most. I plan launch fun, right? Like I fill my launch timeline deliberately with stuff that has nothing to do with business. And I know it sounds kind of backwards, like shouldn't every spare second during a launch be spent on the launch? No. And here's why. Because when your whole identity and your whole, day, week, month collapses into launch mode, that's when you can burn out by day 4 or week 1 or 2 of your launch, and burnout energy does not sell, let alone, then showing up to actually facilitate or deliver the program or the offer you're actually launching in the first place. So for me, what that actually is like, and this is literally like it was a to-do item on my to-do list a few weeks back when I was planning this next launch. It was literally like plan, launch, fun. So I've looked at the weeks in which I am opening and inviting people into the waitlist. I'm looking at the time that the doors are open to the waitlist. For this intake of the mastermind, I am only planning on opening to the waitlist and not publicly, like to everybody. So yeah, ahead of time, I'm looking at, right, what's coming up over those few weeks. I've got some, as I said, we went on a date night last night, so we've got some date nights booked in. I normally have a party or 2 night where I go out dancing. I'm normally getting in the surf with my hubby once or twice a week. There's coffee dates with girlfriends, clothes swaps with friends. There's normally lots of fun that I weave into my life, and I also ensure that I do not let those things drop during a launch period. Okay, ritual 3, the audacious one. I 10x my goals. I don't know if you heard the episode that I did ages and ages ago. It might have even been the birth story, my daughter's birth story that I did as a podcast episode. If you'll scroll back to early 2021, you'll find it. That was the year she was born. But what I did when I was pregnant in my 3rd pregnancy, I was a little bit scared because whilst both my first 2 pregnancies went quite well, they were both, vaginal births, no drugs. My second was also at home, like a planned home birth. His birth, I called it the Fast and the Furious birth. It was like 3 hours, and it was like Fast and the Furious. I don't even know if my playlist was playing. I have no idea. So in my mind, I've gone, okay, well, if that was only my second birth, my 3rd birth is going to be so much faster, because don't they just get like shorter and quicker? So I was like, oh my God, that was like a freight train. I was quite nervous about my 3rd birth. And so when I thought about it and I coached myself through this, I was like, okay, well, what do I want? What do I want? And I wanted a pleasant birth. I just wanted a pleasant birth, right? So coaching myself, I went, right, well, here's what we do. We 10x that goal. So instead of just wanting a pleasant birth, I decided I wanted an orgasmic birth, right? So I was like, okay, this birth is going to be an orgasmic birth. So I made that my goal, and I focused on that. And I watched YouTube videos on people who had orgasmic births. I listened to podcast episodes on people who talked about orgasmic birth. I made that the normal. I made that totally a possible thing to achieve, so that by the time I got closer to my birth, when I thought about having just a pleasant birth, I was like, yeah, that's totally doable. That's almost like expected right now. And remember, what we focus on, we find the evidence of. If you're expecting for something to go a certain way, chances are it's more likely to go that way. It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So I do this in my business as well. This is why I have a goal of having 50 women on the waitlist before I launch. That is 10 times the amount of spots that are even available. And my conversion rate from waitlist is amazing. My last waitlist strategy, the conversion rate was around 20%. So timesing your goal by 10, it feels so audacious. Yeah, and it's not because I need to hit 10 times the number, but because dialing into the most audacious, the most pleasurable version of a launch pulls something different out of me than aiming for safe or a little bit better than last time. Yeah, so, if your last launch made 3K and you've set this one's goal at 3,500, you're basically just trying not to fail. Yeah, you've already reached that. That's your standard now. But if you set it at 30K, even if you land at 12, you've had a completely different launch. Because you have set it at 30K, that has brought something out of you that's made you go, oof, if I was aiming for that goal, what would I need to be doing differently? What kind of bolder moves would I be making? What kind of bigger content or more embodied energy, or what kind of bigger conviction is required? Audacity changes the entire experience, not just the outcome. Right, ritual 4. Before I add any tactic to my launch plan, I run a desire check. Yeah, I do a desire check before saying yes. So, does this actually feel like a genuine yes? Or does it feel like a should? Because so much of what we're told to do, especially in a launch, the countdown stickers, the unethical urgency, yuck, the scarcity. Some of that might feel great to you and some of it might make you want to vomit. Yeah. If it makes your stomach turn, if it makes you want to vomit, it's not going to convert anyway, because people can feel that. So for me, for this launch of the Pleasurepreneur Mastermind, I was going to run my Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur combo that I've done previously, which first starts out with a masterclass, a Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur masterclass, the mindset, the embodiment that I talked about before, in order for you to have the best launch ever, and then the content goldmine. But I was like, I actually don't want to run a masterclass this time. I want to do a multi-day Telegram experience where I'm sharing bite-sized trainings with the people on the waitlist and where I'm coaching people in there as well, rather than running a masterclass. So even though I had all of that set up, ready to go for the masterclass and the goldmine, I was like, no, that is not what I desire this time. So I let myself have what it is that I desire, right? In my launches and in what I create, in what the results are that I create, a little bit like what I was talking about earlier. If you don't give yourself permission to what you want, you can't really expect yourself to create what you want either. So look at what it is that you are implementing or planning when it comes to your next launch. Are you just doing the things that you think you should? Are you doing webinars because someone told you have to? Are you only doing, trial reels for your content because someone told you that's the best way to go? Like, there will be so many different strategies you can use. Your job is to find the one that feels good for you, that you actually desire, because when you find what actually lights you up, you're going to do more of it. Do more of it, you have more visibility, you make more sales, you sign more clients, you have a better launch result, right? Okay, let's dive into Ritual 5. Ritual 5, thing number 5, I curate my input. So I curate what I consume during a launch. I curate who I follow, what I'm scrolling, whose launch emails are landing in my inbox that week or any emails. I am very conscious about what I'm bringing into my field during a launch. Yeah, because comparison during a launch is absolutely deadly. And not the cool, like Indigenous, Aboriginal deadly, just like the, consider your launch dead sort of thing. Right? You do not need to know what 5, 10, 50 other people in your industry are doing this week. You need to protect your energy and your conviction. So that might look like you muting or unfollowing people, and that's okay. It might also look like you doing the deeper shadow work of, understanding why it is you're seeking what it is they're doing. Do you not feel confident in yourself? Do you not trust yourself, right? So make sure that what it is you're bringing into your field, into your mind during a launch is something that's actually going to support the results that you want to create. This goes for social media, but also like who you're spending your time and energy with, how you're spending, how you're spending your energy with, but I said that anyway. Yeah, just being very conscious of what you are putting into your ears and eyeballs and where you're putting your time and energy. So all of those things are the 5 things out of the 10 that I do before I launch, right? So let's recap that. Number 1, define success on your own terms. Number 2, plan launch fun, one of my favorites. Number 3, 10x your goals. Number 4, do a desire check before saying yes. And number 5, curate your input. Stick around for part 2 of the 10 rituals that I do before and during every launch that most people miss. If you are listening to this and you're thinking, oh yes, I want to make sure that my next launch is the best launch yet, I want to increase my chances of having a sellout launch, feel good, be all in, not burn out, then I want you to join the Pleasurepreneur Mastermind waitlist. If you get in time, you'll be able to spend 5 days with me in Telegram while I help you learn how to launch like a pleasurepreneur. So join me for Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur from July 20. That will be our 5-day Telegram coaching experience where I'm going to guide you through the mindset and the embodiment and the pleasure-led approach that will actually determine the success of this launch for you, of your next launch, right? Because you can have the best content, the best strategy in the world, but if you're second guessing yourself, if you're holding yourself back, if you're not fully behind what you're selling, if you're getting caught up in all the mind drama and you're on an emotional roller coaster, you are not going to create the best kind of results for your launch that you could be creating. The Launch Like a Pleasurepreneur 5-day Telegram experience is where we're going to shift that for you. So make sure you click the link in the show notes. Make sure that you are in before July 20. Click the link in the show notes. That's all for now. And stay tuned for part 2 of 10 rituals that I do before and during every launch that most people miss. That's all for now. Go and have a beautiful, awesome, pleasure-led day or evening wherever you're at in your day. And I'll meet you back here soon.